I think the biggest surprises are behind me. Dude, I warned you. I said I was gonna do that if you did that again.
A few months ago, I put Ben 10 up against the villains of Analog Horror, where I restricted him to not use Alien X. And even with that, he still did pretty well. The Omnitrix is so busted that how could he not? But what if we put him up against even more iconic villains and restrict him to not using the Omnitrix? Could he beat some of the most iconic slasher villains we have him up against? Well, maybe. First, what is Ben scaling? As a kid, he doesn't really have much. He is bullied by two brats and that's it. But as a teen, he's got a lot more to throw at ya. He can survive falling from the sky. He can survive a pillar falling on him. He can survive Chip jumping on him, and he can match Simeon in terms of strength and was even winning their fight. Simeon and Spider Monkey both have some active building level scaling, with the latter pulling an entire building on himself, and he was fine. Simeon and Ben both being able to damage each other and tank hits from each other would give Ben some consistent small building level attack potency, which is even consistent with both Simeon and Ben stopping a ceiling from crushing them to the same caliber, which was calculated to at least 6.25 tons each of weight. Ben is also capable of dodging lasers, gunfire, and combat other characters similar to Simeon, which would mean Ben would have some level of scaling in the consistent combat speed chain. And don't get me fucking started on that. Anyways, how would Ben go against each slasher? Well, first, any slasher with no real physical power or speed at these levels, as well as no hacks, kinda kicks them from being a real good chance against Ben. So Norman Bates, Patrick Bateman, Hannibal Lecter, any of the Ghostfaces, and even John Kramer are thrown out here. This allows us to get to the more intimidating and stronger slashers like Leatherface, who can break through walls, rip cars apart, has a wide arsenal to work with like chainsaws and hammers, which would allow him to reach war level with some level of speed of evading shotgun fire. Chucky is actually probably more dangerous than him. Okay, I'm looking at this footage and no. Okay, even with all his hacks and voodoo and stuff, he is not intimidating or really powerful enough to do anything. He'd just be thrown away like that. Now for the Terrifier. Art the Clown also has some great showings to boot, like where he used said boot to crush a man's skull, rips someone's bones apart, casually kills people with just his physical strength, even crushing a door off its hinges, which has calculations all the way up to 516 kilojoules. But he also has a lot of weapons, like he uses to kill random kids for shits and giggles, with a bomb. Yes, a bomb. This feat was calculated to 91.7 megajoules of energy and is just something that Art the Clown just casually has at his arsenal. And like most horror villains, he has some crazy immortality or regeneration. That's what's keeping him going anyway. And it's all very disgusting and potentially demonetization worthy, so let's just move on. Now, Michael Myers has a pretty great stat sheet to run with. First off, he is one of the best speed feats among the slashers of dodging point-blank gunfire, reaching calcs of nearly 760 km per hour or subsonic plus tier. He also has feats of casually breaking through walls, surviving an explosion that has calcs of 26 to 168 megajoules of energy, and is an actual genius with how he attacks. Jason and Freddy both have some crazy feats that put them above the rest, like casually destroying the cabin and environment around them in their fight. But Freddy also just directly scales to Jason's crazier feats, so it's easier to talk about both of them here. Like when human Jason casually shattered a wooden door, which has a calc reaching 2.9 megajoules of energy. And both zombie Jason and Freddy being able to harm each other, who both tank the propane tank explosion. This calc does have a high end reaching city block level, but since neither Freddy or Jason were in the middle of it, they got a smaller energy output to deal with, so yeah. Jason is super unkillable and can revive himself thanks to insane regeneration, and Freddy can do that alongside shapeshifting and a lot of his Dream Demon powers. And if I wanted to talk about Dream World Freddy, I'd probably let Ben keep the Omnitrix, so maybe that's for another video. So how would Ben fare against the stronger slasher villains? In terms of physical strength and durability, he beats Art's consistent showings, however would die to Art's bomb and any of Michael, Jason's, and Freddy's attacks. But that's where his speed and intelligence comes in. Ben is used to fighting characters more powerful than himself as a human, and is pretty good at thinking on his feet. He's also got faster combat speeds that any of the slashers have. The only issue is Ben doesn't really have anything to put them down, or a win con or anything like that. He does however have a hoverboard that allows him to stay in the air and would probably just survive by flying away. Except Michael and Jason do seem to have teleportation to work with, so maybe Ben could just attempt to run away, but then again, teleportation, ugh. So yeah, it looks like Ben ain't winning this. He may beat a few villains, but he doesn't clear. Maybe in a future video Ben will get a rematch with the Omnitrix and fight the higher slasher villains like Pinhead, Pennywise, the Tall Men, and Dream World Freddy. Maybe.